Welcome to a Soccer Down Here 1v1, where we get to catch up with one of the cool stories that has come across here in the late summer of 2021. Trevor Banks, the head coach of the Chicago State Cougars. Chicago State University did something in a pandemic that was out of the ordinary and added a sport. And it just so happens to be soccer, which is right in our wheelhouse. Coach, thanks for hanging out with us to tell the story on a 1v1.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This is awesome. So I really appreciate you having me on.
When this opportunity presented itself to you, what was your first reaction to it?
So I got the call the day after my birthday in 2020. So it was June 23rd is when I got the call. And I was actually in the middle of a couple other interviews, and I just finished an interview, to be fair. And when I got the call from Elliot Charles, he was like, "We're interested in actually talking to you and seeing if this could be a right fit." Then I started doing research on the institution, and I saw obviously some negatives. There was a load of negatives that I saw, but I also listened to some of the things he said, and I knew like going and being a part of something with him would have been absolutely special, especially starting a program. So my eyes lit up whenever the opportunity presented itself. And as I'm looking at everything, I'm like, this honestly could be a really good fit. There were a few things that I knew that I wanted. A student-driven institution, that's what they are. To be a part of a Black institution, that's what they are. It was absolutely special for me to go back and be in a community that same type of community I grew up in. So when I looked at everything, it was honestly a no-brainer. And so I was just hoping he would offer me the job to make sure. So it was one of those things that for me, as soon as he made the call and I started to look at everything, I was just like, this is a really, really good fit for what I want and where I'm at in my career at that moment, you know?
Coming from the Ivy League and working your way over to Chicago State, I mean, when you look at yourself as a coach, have you always thought of yourself as a builder? And this is a question that I like to ask coaches and athletic directors and those in positions of power. When it comes to your own personality, have you always thought of yourself as a builder, or was this something when it came to the Chicago State opportunity where you're sitting there going, man, I've really got something here and it'll push me out of my comfort zone, but it will force me really into something that I think could be amazing if we apply to it?
So I looked at Chicago State as a sleeping giant, in my opinion, with everything that we have here and the things that they're going to be building and all of the stuff that I was listening to and we're going through right now. I looked at it as a sleeping giant. So for me, I wanted to be a part of something where I could build, right? And the other opportunities that I had outside of Chicago State, it was all situations where you're going to build something, but it's going to take some time, right? I felt like Chicago State was a situation that's a 2 to 3 year build rather than a 5 to 6 year build. And so when I looked at it, I was just like, I knew starting a program, I would be bringing in my own players. I didn't have to like go through a roster and say, oh, this guy doesn't fit what I want. And you're forced to stay with those guys. Whereas these guys that are all here right now, they're guys that I brought in. You know, they're guys that I looked at and said, he's going to fit in like this, and this is where he fits in. I'm not having to question, how does that guy fit into our culture? And then with that said, I knew that I could bring in the right guys that would understand the type of culture I wanted here, right? And I'm not going in and trying to sell to a team, hey, this is the culture, what it is. Now we got to get rid of this guy because he doesn't fit within that culture. And for me, it's a student athlete driven culture for what we did. I listened to my guys. I allowed them to express themselves with certain things. Obviously, I obviously have the final call and everything. But like the guys that we were able to bring in this year, these are all guys that have some how do you call it, veteranship. They have some understanding of the level and what we're trying to do, right? And if you look at our team, we had 12 guys here in the spring. And we went from having 12 guys and we brought in 32 brand new guys. And you look at our roster, the starting lineup, there's one person in our starting lineup that was here last year. And that's Shaquan Reed. And he went through it with us in the spring and had to do a lot. But he understood what we were building, right? And he also understood that we're not trying to wait 5-6 years. We're trying to do it now. And I knew looking at this job that it wasn't going to be a 5-6 year situation. It's going to be a 2 to 3 year build where we're going to be competing. And if you look at some of the results this year, I can tell you right now, there's some heads that were turned because I'm assuming that people were like, hey, they're going to lose games 10-0, 10-0. They're not going to be able to compete right away. All of this stuff. We're competing. We're putting ourselves in a really good spot to compete. These last 2 games on the weekend, Xavier and Michigan, the Xavier game could have gone either direction. The Michigan game, we were right there and we were fighting, and it was great to see our group be able to compete with 2 teams who I believe both teams will be in the NCAAs this year. And for me, and our staff, we were very happy, not happy with losing. Don't get me wrong, not happy with losing those matches, but we were very happy with the performance we were able to put out with both of those matches. So for me, I knew that we'd be able to come in and figure something out right away, which I believe that's what we're doing right now. If you look at some of the results we've been able to have throughout the season.
So you beat Northwestern out of the blocks. I mean, that you can't ask for a better start from that. I mean, what was the immediate reaction after coming out of the blocks? First match, you get the Duke against Northwestern.
Well, let's get ready for Detroit Mercy.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. And obviously the Detroit Mercy game went into an OT. That's a tough team and they play a tough way, and our group, that's the first time that obviously everything is a first this season, but that was the first time our group was able to really get an idea of what most soccer throughout the U.S. is, and that's direct play. You're dealing with balls over the top. You're having to deal with physicality, and that's what Detroit Mercy was. So for me, it was, it's great that we took the win versus Northwestern. It's my first one as a Division I coach against a Division I institution. Russell is one of my mentors, so it was also really special for me to be able to have that over him. But like, really, it was okay. My reaction was Detroit Mercy. I know that's going to be a tough game, and it was. It was a game that we went into OT against a team that kept literally hitting the ball down the field and us having to deal with it, and us having to deal with their press right away. And we learned from it. We took a loss in OT off of a PK, a foul that was given up in the second OT, and it is what it is. But we learned from it, and we knew that was an opportunity for us to continue to grow, and that's what we've done over these last few weeks, is continue to grow.
How did you bring in all of this talent? I know that the universe is a lot smaller than it was even 5-10 years ago when it came to bringing in players, but you truly do have an international representation across the board. And I mean, there are places when you look at the roster and the bios, it's like, wow, you're bringing in folks from Papua New Guinea for birthplaces, Cape Verde. I mean, it is from all over the place. What is the recruitment process like for you in the 21st century to bring in all of this international talent to Chicago State?
So because obviously, we're in this pandemic year and the NCAA cut off recruiting in person, right? So I really had to dive into my contacts and really have to trust them. Obviously, one of the pieces that I did a lot this year, I probably watched more soccer on video than I ever have throughout my career, just because I had to be sure about certain pieces, like a guy like now Reed Stevens. I watched like 10 games on this kid and he was absolutely remarkable. So it was a no-brainer for how he fit within our group. Antonio Lil, even though he's right down the road, I still had to watch games on him, and Antonio did a great job at the junior college level, scoring 28 goals and 14 assists as a freshman, and he had 16 goals and 12 assists last year. So like this kid is a guy who it was special from what I felt, and watching his games, you could see his ability is going to translate very well to the Division I level. And so it's like guys like that, continuing to watch these guys, Cal Wayne Allen, the captain for the Jamaican U20s, you knew right away he was going to be very good, but you wanted to make sure he fit in what you were doing. Right. And our group, watching these games, our group continued to get better and better each month as we kind of went through the recruiting process over the last year. Even in the summer, we added 2 guys in the summer that were 2 late guys. We were able to figure out financially how it could work. And one was an all-conference player in Telawasi out of the A10, and he did well. And the other one was junior college All-American in Tajay. And they both were late pickups that were very good pickups for our group and added value to what we were doing. And then the last pickup that we had is a guy who's obviously doing well for us and starting and competing and has had a very good campaign. And he was a transfer that ended up on the portal in July sometime, and that's Ludovic. And Ludovic ended up late on the portal. And when I saw him on the portal, we had a situation happen with a kid that didn't work out. And it was fair enough because he had been committed to us for a while, but he was a 10. And we knew we needed a 10 to come in. And Ludovic this was a late situation. Ludovic popped on the portal late. And I'm just like, immediately, yeah, like let's go after him. Let's see if we can get him. There were a few schools that were after him. And now he's one of our starters that's doing very well for us, So the recruiting process was a lot of trust in my contacts and the guys that I knew. I thought our staff did a really good job with staying on these guys and making sure that we were picking the right pieces. I'll be completely honest with you. There were two guys that were committed to us that some situations happened, one over social media and the other one actually on a video call with me. And I dropped both of them because I didn't think they fit within the culture that we were building. And both national team kids for their respective countries, and both kids who would have done well. And I'm sure they're doing well right now wherever they're at. But for us, it just didn't fit what I wanted within our culture. And I wanted to make sure we brought in guys that were bought into what we're trying to build here. And really that culture is built on attitude, commitment, and effort. We call it ACE here. And that's what we stand by. So, yeah.
When you have all of these aces that you have currently coming from all of these different directions, what's it like for you and the staff and for the players to integrate as one with all of these different cultures coming from all of these different directions? What's this juggling act like for you and the staff?
It's been crazy because everybody has their different personalities, right? Everyone has their different understanding of what they believe a team should be and all of this stuff, right? So we look at it this way, and we look at it as a car. The team is every different part of the car, and I'm just the driver. I'm the guy that's driving us in the right direction for what we want, right? If everyone falls into place and does the things that they need to do in their jobs, then the culture continues to drive, right? We continue to go. If there's a flat tire, then we're stopping. If there's something wrong with the engine, then we're stopped. But there's different things, right, that each person has to do. And that's their job. And that's both on and off the field, whether it has to do with the academic stuff, it has to do with the community, or it has to do with the football, right? And for us, each person has to do their job for our culture to continue to drive. And as long as each person does their job, then our culture will continue to go the direction we want it to go. With this group, the thing about this group, the guys that we brought in, even though they're from different countries, different areas, different places, wherever it's at, US, outside of the country, whatever it is, they're all bought in to what Coach Banks wants the culture to be. They're all bought into it. So for instance, it'd be this: a guy shows up late. The captains don't have to say anything to him. I don't have to say anything to him. They already know what they need to do, right? And so it's like those type of things. Obviously, there's different excuses and stuff like that. If a guy's late for class, that's different from for situations. But guys understand what it is they need to do to make sure that, hey, this is the culture that we're built in. And to be fair, what's crazy about it is a guy shows up late. You won't just see that guy going off and doing what he needs to do. You're going to see the team with him every time. And we don't have many guys that show up late, and we train at 6 o'clock in the morning. And we don't have many guys that show up late. But it's happened once or twice where a guy overslept or something has happened with this, and he couldn't get there because of a bus or something of that nature, right? Because we have a few of the guys that live off campus. And they know exactly what they need to do. So the best part about it is watching how the culture continues to grow, because these guys are bought into what we're trying to do, right? They aren't sitting there thinking they're better than the team, no matter where they come from, no matter what levels they've played at and all of this stuff. These guys are just doing everything they can to make sure we as a team continues to get better and better and better. Now, as far as the soccer goes, it takes time. We haven't had an off season. So we have 32 brand new guys. We have a starting lineup. One person was in the starting lineup last spring, so we have a bunch of brand new guys, and we're 7 games into the season, and we're sitting 2-3-1 right now. There's not one person in the country besides us that thought we would be in this position, competing with Michigan's, Xavier's, beating Northwestern, winning some of these games that are out there. There's not one person that thought we'd be where we are except for us, because we knew as a group what we were, and I think the culture, it's going to take time. The playing culture is going to build even more as we get into this off season that happens in the spring and stuff like that, because we will have had a season and we will have had an off season. And when you continue to watch us grow and grow and grow, the soccer is going to be there even more as we go into the second season that we have, right? Right now is going to take games. And if you watch us in Northwestern. Northwestern was a bunch of individual talent, a bunch of guys that were on the field. They were fighting. And that's the one thing I will say. Our group will fight no matter what. But it's a bunch of individual talents that were showcasing their talent, and they did well showcasing their talent. Then you watch Detroit Mercy, again, individual talent, but you can see there's moments where it's getting better. Then you start watching the Green Bays of the world, that match development of the world. You actually see a team come together in that second weekend. And as we played these the Xaviers of the world, the Michigans, you really see a team come together. We played some of our best soccer here over this last weekend against two very good teams. And one of them, we had them on the breaks. And in my opinion, like I said, the game could have gone either way. We missed a rotation, which is why they ended up scoring. But that's what you expect from a big team, to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And the Michigan match, we missed opportunities that we should have put away in the first half, where it would have been a 1-1 game going into half. And then they scored early, so we had to fight. We were chasing the game a bit. But the best part about watching that match while I was on the sideline is we had a team that fought for 90 minutes. We scored late, but it wasn't like Michigan wasn't trying to stop us from scoring. They wanted a shutout. We scored late because we fought. We continue to fight all the way through. And that's the best part about our team, is that we will fight no matter what, no matter who we're playing, no matter what the situation is. We're going to continue to put our best soccer out there, and we're continuing to grow. But this season right now, it's going to take these games where, as we play these games more and more and more, we get to know the individuals that are on the team more and more and more. We get to bond more and more and more as a team. And that's what we're doing right now.
Trevor Banks, the head coach of Chicago State, hanging out with us for a Soccer Down Here 1v1 for another couple of minutes to discuss what it's like to start something from scratch. So my next question for you, do you view yourself as a role model when it comes to coaching, coaches, building a program, taking a challenge, choice D, all of the above? How much of a role model do you view yourself in now that you're in this situation?
Yeah, I think it's choice D, all of the above. I don't just consider myself a role model in the soccer piece. I consider myself a role model in their lives, right? As a whole, I'm always going to be a mentor for every single one of these kids. 10 years, 20 years from now, they're going to be shooting me a text and saying, Coach, you're not going to believe like what I just went through. And the only reason I got through is because of everything we went through, the adversity we dealt with, and how we dealt with that adversity, So I look at this situation because some of these guys that are here, they grew up the same way I did. So I'm always able to go to them and say, I understand, but look where I am because I took this route, instead of taking this route. So it's like, it's those type of things that are very good for our group, is that I've been through a lot of the things that these guys have gone through or going through in their lives, right? And so they have someone that they can come to about whatever the situation is, and that understands their situation, rather than just someone that's out there that doesn't really understand, but they're saying they understand what it is. So for me, these guys consider me their mentor, and I consider them my mentees, but that's for life. I'm always going to be in these guys' lives, and it's going to be with everything that we do, both on and off the field, in the community, academically, soccer-wise. These guys, there's a few guys that have opportunities to play after. I'm always going to be a guy that's able to give them advice and help them understand what they're dealing with and what they're going through and all that stuff at that point, So for me, yes, I consider myself a massive mentor for every single guy that's on our team. And this is why I meet with our team on an individual basis on a consistent level. It's not just my assistants that are meeting with them. I meet with them. This is why I'm always involved with their lives, just checking in on them, telling them to come by the office and hang out. They come by the office, hang out, just sit down just because they want to talk or speak about whatever it is. And I'm going to be there for them, So for me, we dealt with a situation in preseason where one of our players broke up with him and his girlfriend broke up. And at first he felt like he couldn't come and talk to me about it. And I said, yeah, I come and sit down. I sat with him for an hour. He just wanted to get things off of his head. I didn't even say a word. He just wanted to talk. And I just sat there and I listened to him and let him express himself. And as he's leaving office, he's like, that's exactly what I needed. And I'm just like, sometimes that's what you need, somebody just to sit there and listen to you. And that's what I'm here for. If that's the moment, or if it's a 3 a.m. call where something happens and some kid has to go to the hospital, I'm there for them, and they know that they can call me at any point. So for me, yes, I consider myself a mentor, but not just on the soccer side of it, also in their lives, with things that they're dealing with and being able to be there for them 110%.
So then who was your mentor, and what was the first lesson you learned from that individual that has stuck with you to today?
Kurt Talley, adversity. Kurt Talley was my high school soccer coach. And so I should have never been on the varsity team as a freshman. I'm going to be honest with you. I was not good. I just started playing soccer as a freshman. But Kurt Talley just saw something in me. And to be fair, he's the reason, the main reason, because I would have quit soccer had I not been on varsity or any of that stuff. I would have just been, okay, this isn't the sport for me. I would have ran track and field, left it at that. But Kurt Talley saw something in me and he said, I want to teach this kid. And so what Kurt Talley showed me was there's certain people that you won't know, but they come into your lives and you're able to help them in a way that you never thought you'd be able to help them, if I'm explaining that correctly, right? And so he taught me just seeing that, right? Seeing that people come into your lives, but you may be able to be a part of their lives in a way that you never thought you'd be able to be a part of. And that's what he was for me. Kurt Talley was a guy that showed me that I could be something that I never thought I could be. And he was always that person that was there. So I'm always there for my guys because I learned that from him. I watched him be a guy that every time I called him, Kurt, I don't have a ride for this. I'll take care of it, Trevor. I'll take care of it. I'll make sure you sort it out. And I didn't have a car. I didn't have any of that stuff. There were times where I would walk to training or walk back home from training because it was at school or whatever it was. But I always knew that if I was ever in a situation where I couldn't get to something, Kurt was there to take care of me. If I ever needed advice for something, he was there. So I just learned that just from him, being a guy that's always there, being a guy always available, always being a guy that's ready to take on whatever you need to take on to make sure you get through whatever adversity there is that's in front. And I'm gonna tell you, I'll be honest with you, we deal with a lot of adversity here at Chicago State, but that's the one thing about our team is we understand how to get through it, and we're never gonna give up. We're never gonna buy it down. We're never gonna sit there and say I can't do this. You're always gonna see our guys continue to fight no matter what the situation is.
Northern Illinois coming up next week, and then you dive into conference play in the WAC. Trevor Banks, the head coach at Chicago State for the men's soccer program. It's a fantastic story. Great to catch up with you. Thanks for pulling some time away from the guys to let everybody in the SDH universe know what's going on. We'll be keeping an eye on what's going on. Thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1. We'll be catching up with you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me.